campaign, and Craig. And Craig is, Martha's my constituency assistant, so Larry has one of those too, so he knows how important they are to our lives.
Extremely.
And Craig helped me driving during the election, and he's the best driver I've ever had because he's an RCMP trained fursuit driver, an RCMP trained evasive action driver. So whichever way you want to go on that, Craig can do that. So we, anyway, the young guys we had in our campaign team loved hearing Craig talk about his days guarding Margaret and Pierre Trudeau. So he guarded Margaret and Pierre Trudeau in the very first RCMP detachment after the FLQ crisis to guard them. So anyway, that's Craig and Martha. My name's John Lohr. I've been a farmer all my life in the Annapolis Valley. My parents came from Holland in 1958. My dad came from the north of Holland in Mussel Canal, and my mother came from Walcheren in the south. And they met in the middle of Holland after the war because my father's family had been put into the, now none of you know what this means, but you guys do, the Noordoostpolder. He was on the farm, he ran the farm that was preparing the land to be settled in the early 50s. So he was in charge of 100 men and 100 horses, my grandfather. And they were running that farm. And my mother's family went from Zeeland because the dikes had been bombed during the war, and the salt water had gotten in on their fields, so that they had to be moved. It probably saved their lives because in 1953 there was a big flood that would have probably killed them. And it probably, by the fact that they moved, 1,500 people died in that flood in the area my mother came from. And because they had been moved, it probably saved their life. But that's not my normal political talk. I don't normally start. Let me think now. I got to start on my 10-minute stump speech. That wasn't hard. So I farmed all my life in a vegetable farm and in canning. So you might know it as Farmer John's Herbs. So I'm Farmer John and Farmer John's Summer Savory and Spice Mixes. And I sold the farm to my two oldest boys last March. Oh my goodness, Eric Burial.
Keep on talking, John.
Huh? I haven't seen you in a while.
Bet you didn't expect to see me either.
No, I didn't expect to see you, buddy.
Didn't see you.
You guys all know him, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of them.
Anyway, okay, so I farmed all my life, and I sold the farm to my sons, my two oldest boys, last March. One son bought the farm, and the other son bought Farmer John's Herbs, the spice company. So they're not partners, but they've got to get along. And my wife Heather, who's a very smart business lady herself, who's had a number of businesses, I'm very proud of her, and she's all in on this. She just can't be here. She has a girlfriend visiting from Newfoundland today, actually. But she does the bookkeeping for the farm. So that business, we worked all around the Maritimes, and I did the farming is, sometimes Heather says, John, you shouldn't, that's my wife, you shouldn't just say you were a farmer because it involved walking in through the doors of Walmart in Toronto to sell my product to Walmart. It involved dealing with Sobeys and Loblaws at the highest levels and doing barcodes and product development and meeting the requirements for the Canadian, the CIFA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, right? And all of that stuff. And you know how complicated that all is. We had 25 people working on the farm many years. And one of the things I would tell my workers on the farm when they would ask me about, I would always say, your children are more important than my farm. So in other words, if they had to make an appointment with one of their children, or suddenly the school called and they had to go pick up a child, or anything unexpected happened, I just wanted to know where they were going, but I said, I'll never say no to you. Your children are more, and my children were more important than my farm too, clearly. So I treated them the way that I would want to be treated myself. And vegetable farming is tough business. And so you have to treat people right. And one of the things that happens when you vegetable farm, or any farm, often when the father sells the son the farm, the men who worked for dad will leave. They won't stick around. They'll move on because they just can't make that adjustment of working for the son. And my son, my key man who knows how to fix everything, like I know how to fix everything, but I'm not there. And the other guy who knows how to fix everything, who's worked with me 20 years, is Richard. And Richard came to me about 6 months before Aaron bought the farm and said, John, I don't know if I can work with Aaron. I said, well, Richard, just give him a chance, you know? And I said to Aaron, Richard doesn't know if he can work with you, but you need him because I'm not around much. I said, all you have to do is when Richard does something good, say, man, you did a good job, Richard. So about 3-4 months later, Richard says to me, I don't think I'll have any trouble working with Aaron. I said, oh, that's nice to hear, Richard, because he needs you. So I say that to say that I believe that you need to treat people right. And another thing that you should know about me is I've had a lot of tragedy in my life. I lost a brother when I was 21 in a car accident, and we've lost 2 sons. One to SIDS, crib death, and one to a fall in 2014. And 3 weeks later, my dad passed away. But the circumstances around my son passing away, who was 21 years old in 2014, had to do with mental health and psychosis. So one of the things that I'm standing for in this is that I want mental health to be available throughout the province, a mental health court to be available throughout the province, and also better mental health services. So I have 3 parts, and I tell people, I shouldn't go on yet, but I should tell people what got me through all of that was 3 things. One thing is that I knew that I could not stop working, so I always kept working. And that was pretty important. And the second thing was that we have a lot of friends and people in our lives, and the love and the friendship of family and friends in the community help too. And the third thing is my faith. I have very strong faith in God, and I've been very active in my church all my life, and but I believe that everything happens for a reason, and I don't have to know the reason. I'm at peace with that. So I can't say to you that I just don't know the reason, but I've let go of that. So here I am. I had, in 2017, in May, I was going for re-election. I had been first elected in 2013 for Kings North as an MLA, so I'm now in my 2nd term. But in May, I had a lady challenge me on guaranteed annual income. She believed everybody should get a guaranteed annual income. And I just said, well, I just can't say yes to that without seeing really good information on that. And she was kind of annoyed at me, and she said, what did you accomplish? So I named a few things that I had done, and I said, I survived. Right? So I survived all that because I got elected in 2014, went through all of that November, December 2014, got elected in 13, and here I am. So now I'm running for the leadership of the party. My platform is a three-part platform. It's people, economy, and integrity. And on the people thing, I told you some of those stories about the farm just to tell you that I believe that everything we do has to go through the lens of treating people right. And I don't believe that the government that we have at hand now, the McNeil government, has treated our doctors and our teachers and our nurses with respect. I think they said one thing and then went and did another. And I'm not saying that we'll have easy negotiations, but I want to treat people with respect the same way that I would want to be treated myself. Other things that fit into my people platform, get my notes out here. So I've said a number of things. One thing I've said is that I believe that we have to pay doctors fair pay. And we can't expect to have track doctors in Nova Scotia if we have the lowest pay in Canada and the highest taxes. So we have to realize and recognize that we have to change that. A couple of other things I've said, I've stood up for free speech in our universities. There's a lot of, nowadays there's a lot of pressure in universities to not shut out both sides of some of the debates. And there have been pro-life groups that have been shut out of universities in North America. And I'm saying I want to have free speech to be available. We don't have to agree. And in fact, I can respect somebody else's right to free speech too. So another thing that I've said is that I want to stand for, there's doctors in Nova Scotia who are conscientious objectors to medical assistance in dying, and who don't want to participate in that, and they've been told that if they fail to make an effective referral, they'll face professional discipline. That was last November, right here in Nova Scotia, and I said, we won't have professional discipline, we'll prevent that. So if a doctor is a conscientious objector to providing assistance in dying, we won't have professional discipline against them. There's other ways of providing that information and providing access. So in terms of the economy, I think we have a goal to, an opportunity to transform the economy of this province. And one of the main things I've come out with, which is I know controversial, but I want to be very clear about what I stand for, is I've said that we have to go ahead and develop natural gas in the province. We know that onshore we have between 20 and $60 billion US worth of natural gas. And the reason I think that we need to go ahead is I tell people, well, we're happy to send our sons and daughters out west to work. We're happy to take transfer payments from Ottawa, and that wealth really comes from the oil and gas industry out west mainly. This year we're bringing into a $10 billion budget. We're bringing in $3.1 billion worth of transfer payments. That's how much we're bringing into this province in transfer payments this year. And we're happy to burn coal, which is the dirtiest of all fuels, and that's in at least two, maybe two or a couple more. There's two major coal generating stations, and we're matching that up with wind power. And in order for if you have wind power, you always have to have 100% backup of power generation if you have wind, because you never know when the wind's not going to blow. And coal is to keep the coal plant.
Battery, you need really good batteries.
What's that?
Battery, you need really good batteries for the wind power.
The batteries don't exist yet, but I believe they will come. But they don't exist yet. So in order for the coal-fired power plant to react in time, right now it has to be kept on hot idle. So think about that. And the other thing is going to natural gas would give us an immediate 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. So it would be way cleaner. It would be a source of wealth. I believe we have to go ahead slow. We're 10 years behind other jurisdictions in North America, and we have the opportunity to have best-in-the-world regulations for the environment. There's been 215,000 wells in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC that this has been done to. So if you know somebody from out west, ask them how it's going out there. That's what but I believe that we can go ahead slow, we can do this. And if you're happy with the way the roads are, the way healthcare is, the way social services is, and all those other things, okay, let's not do anything. But this is an opportunity to change the economy of Nova Scotia. There's other things that I've said that we need to do to change the economy. I want to see local beer and local wine that in our grocery stores. We have a wine industry that's taking off. I believe it's an opportunity for them, and the reason I want to support that is it's been done in New Brunswick very successfully. The Magnetic Hill Winery went from 5 employees to about 50 employees almost overnight. So I've said other things. I want to have Uber in Nova Scotia. Uber is a share, a kind of part of the share economy where you can sign up to be an Uber driver, and you can use your car effectively as a taxi in a very convenient way. And lots of people think this is about Halifax, but in reality, rural areas will really benefit, especially if you don't have good taxi services in rural areas. It will be a real boost. I was astounded to find out how much they want Uber down in southwestern Nova Scotia in Shelburne. There's people there who want that service in their community. And there are other share economy taxi type services. There's another one called Lyft. What's holding Uber up is the provincial government has to provide the legislation to allow Uber's way of dealing with liability insurance to be legal. So that's what's holding Uber up. Okay? Did you want to ask a question?
Have you heard about in some places where people are really worried about like ambulance costs, that in some places people have actually been calling Uber instead of ambulances?
I had not heard that, but yeah, that's very interesting. So wow. So I don't know about that liability, but anyway, that sounds. I had not heard that. That's interesting. But I believe that those types of things, we have to let that new economy go ahead. I said I want to have no carbon tax. I've come out very strongly in favor of the forestry industry in this province, and the people in the sawmills, Ledgwig Lumber. I've met with Doug Ledgwig. I don't think that's too far from here. And they're very supportive of my stand for the forestry industry. So there's been other policies. And to make this not getting too long, I put out other stuff too, but to cut it down, I've also, the third part of my platform is integrity. And I want the provincial government, and this is probably the second way I want to transform our government. I want to transform the economy in Nova Scotia, but I want to transform the way government does business. I want to be absolutely committed to integrity and being clear about what we're doing, and not misleading the people. So one of the things that we saw in 2013 was the Liberal government ran on a policy of a doctor for every Nova Scotian. And they had absolutely no plan on how they were going to achieve that. And we see now the effect of that. In fact, it's gotten far, far worse since 2013. So I don't want to run on a platform of things that I don't have any idea how I'm going to achieve. Just things that sound like good slogans. The world I come in from in farming, the way we farmed with our neighbors, if you said something, you did it. And if it cost you money in the end, you still kept your word because you only have one opportunity to cheat your neighbor. So I heard that the current Liberal government say things they knew they couldn't do or had no plan. And then we heard them say things that they were going to do, and then they did the opposite. Like they said they would keep the film tax credit, and they cut that film tax credit. So I want to run a government that's committed to integrity, and if we make a mistake or something changes, we'll explain that and say we said that, but this is the reality. We'll just deal with it straight up. We'll, whatever, you know. And one of the things that the McNeil government promised was fixed election dates. We still do not have that. And I'm promising fixed election dates, and I'll go a little further to that, and Larry will appreciate this. We'll fix the dates the legislature sits too. Because right now we get 30 days notice, and we never know when we're going to get called back. And my wife's very committed to vacations, but we plan them a year out. So she'll say, John, can we go on a vacation right like these dates? And I'll say, well, I don't know.